Hello again, this is Seviour. I'm talking today from the Bible about sexual relations. Now, this is not going to be very popular in some people, so I'm sorry if I offend some people. I am just simply bringing to you God's word, so please consider it, and some people will not find this very kind towards them, so I'm really sorry if I do that, but I'm bringing out God's word. It's not my thoughts, this is God's word. Okay, so in the beginning God created Adam and Eve, and he said to them, go out and be fruitful. That's in Genesis 1 verse 28. So we know what that means, yeah? Go out and make babies and make more children and fill the earth. The interesting thing about this is we think, I'm going to speak loud because I'm outside, on Genesis 4 verse 1, it said, I might have it here in a minute, that it called Eve his wife, but there wouldn't have been a marriage ceremony. So that made me think that as soon as you have sex with somebody and you connect yourself in that intimate way, does that mean that you are, in God's eyes, a married couple? Because, you know, it's joining of the bodies, which is a joining of the spirit. So that's just something to consider there. That does that God see it as a each time you have this sexual relationship with somebody, that God sees it as marriage? I don't know. So God sent them out to be fruitful and have babies. Notice it wasn't a man with a man or a woman with a woman. If we move on to, I'm going to walk you through the Bible on some of these verses, there's loads more. On Genesis 19, then this is where there are two angels arrived, and they are men. We know that. Well, we haven't seen any female angels yet, if you remember. But they go into a house, and what happens next? This is what they call sodomy, because what happens next is along come all the men of the town, okay? And what they do is they cry out to him. They cry out to them for sex. Now this is unconsented sex, and this is all the men. And Lot says, well, I've got daughters, can't you have those? You know, have the daughters. But no, they want men. So this is on Genesis 19 verse 5. I really need to put my glasses on. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. See, they were clinging hold of the fact that they wanted to have sex, and it was unconsented sex, and God was really angry. So what happened next, so I put my glasses, is God struck them with blindness. Do you know that? He struck them with blindness. You can read the story for yourself. So homosexual, unconsented, was not what God wanted in this case. So that is, we'll pick up on that in a moment, okay? Now, I just want to say one thing actually about the homosexuals, what I remember now. I knew a homosexual, he became a Christian, and he still had the desire for men, okay? But he didn't actually perform that sexual act. He loved the person he was with, and he kept it on a platonic level. So he didn't actually have that sexual intercourse with the man. So he was set free from that, but I never knew if God was going to deliver him to like women. I don't think he did. I think it just carried on, but he kept the sexual part, which is the same as between a man and a woman. We'll move on to that in a minute. So moving on from that, we're going to talk about that again in a minute. Leviticus 18 gives you various sexual laws of who you can and can't have a relationship with. I've written down a few. Verse 7, Leviticus 18 verse 7 says, not with your mother. Can you imagine having a relationship with your mother? Do not have relations with her. Verse 9, do not have sexual relations with your sister, either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter. Verse 19, I just picked up a couple on these. You can read these for yourself. Do not approach a woman to have sexual relations during the uncleanness of her monthly period. I mean, do you? I don't know. It says not to do that. So, and the last one that isn't going to be popular is this: do not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. This is detestable. Now, this has been ripped out of the Bible many, many times by homosexuals. They don't want to accept this is in the Bible. It says, do not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. This is detestable. I've also got to say that's the same for woman to woman. I'm sorry if it offends you. This is not my rules. This is what is in the Bible that I'm bringing forward. That is Leviticus 18, verse 22. Just to consider it. I mean, I have nothing against homosexuals. I wouldn't even know they were. They can do what they like. I'm not the judge, but I'm just telling you what these laws are for God. So moving on again, we've got the same law again in Leviticus 20, verse 13. If a man lies with a man as one lies with a woman, both of them have done what is detestable. And it says they must be put to death. Their blood will be on their own hands. So this is said several times. But you know what? Going back to the incest, I was looking up on the internet last night. There are several incestuous relationships between a brother and a sister that got married and had children, and a father and a daughter. I couldn't believe it. It's like, to me, that is so sordid. I mean, would I want to have a relationship with my father? It's just, we are created in God's image. And the thing is with this, is that in God's image, we have the natural laws inside of us of what's right and what's wrong. So, would we want incest? No. Definitely not. So moving on again, I got loads of different scriptures to read to you, but we're moving on into the New Testament. Even though there's loads of stuff I could say, I'm moving into John 8. Now this is about adultery. Okay, so adultery isn't right either. I mean, can you imagine what they did? They actually stoned them in the Old Testament. They stoned them. So if an adulterer was caught in the act, they were brought before everybody and they all threw a stone until they killed them. But what did Jesus say in John 8 to the woman that was caught in adultery? This is a new law that Jesus brought in, the new covenant. It's in John 8. And do you know what he said? He was writing on the ground. You know the famous bit where he sat there writing on the ground? And actually, we don't know what was written on the ground. Yeah? And annoyingly, people try to pretend they know. Like some people think it was a fish that was written on the ground, but it's not. So I just want to read you this little bit here. So they brought him a woman that was caught in adultery, and they made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap to have a basis for accusing him. Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "If any one of you is without sin, let him throw the first stone." And do you know what they all did? They all walked away because they knew there's not one of us, no one is righteous, not even one. Not one person can say that we are clean in every way of our lives and have done nothing wrong, because we have. So do you know what Jesus said to her? He didn't say, "We're going to stone you to death" or anything. He just said, "Go now and leave your life of sin." So stop committing adultery. Stop committing it, because that is what is harmful to your soul, is harmful to your well-being. You're warring against yourself. You're in this predicament where are you ever going to get the person? There's all this bitterness, twistedness, all the other things. You know, we've all been there, even for a short time. We know the torment and the torture that goes along with it. Because Jesus says, leave that, turn away from that. Okay? I'm going to move on again to Romans 1. I've got a couple of longer readings in a minute, but I just want to do Romans 1 because this is very clear as well. And this is another abomination against same-sex relationships. So, here it says, I'm going to read a little bit. I'm picking up at Romans 1, verse 24. I decided, "Therefore God gave them over in their sinful desires to their hearts, to sexual impurity, the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the creator." So they're bowing down to the stars, the trees, the planets, let's have an apple orchard and dance around that and worship the trees instead of the creator of the trees, okay? So because of this, God gave them over. Listen to this. God gave them over to sin, shameful lusts. Even though women exchanged natural relations for unnatural relations. In the same way, this is important, men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another. Men committed indecent acts with other men and received in themselves the due penalty for their perversion. Do you know what? I've thought about that passage over and over and over again over the years, and I wondered if that was AIDS. If they received in themselves the due penalty for their perversion. I wonder if that was AIDS, which now has a cure. It was just a thought. I mean, it could be anything. I don't know. But that was just my thought. I'm not necessarily right. Think about it. Okay? So I've got three more things I want to bring to you, and that is 1 Corinthians 6, verse 13 to 14. I've got to shout because this car's going past. And this is telling us very clearly, let's start down here. It says, food for the stomach and the stomach for food, but God will destroy them both. The body is not meant for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body.